Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes Price War, the Bloomberg Open, Europe Edition. Military Briefing, the Israeli bombs raining on Gaza. Under Putin, the uber-wealthy Russians known as oligarchs are still rich but far less powerful. Israel has leveled shocking allegations of sexual violence against Hamas. Here's what we know. Refile Nepal police detain 10 over allegations they sent youths to Russian army. Price War, the Bloomberg Open, Europe Edition. Bloomberg. Amazon is targeting Chinese online fashion retailer Shein by cutting fees for merchants selling clothes priced below $20. This move suggests that Amazon is preparing for a price war with Shein, which plans to launch an IPO next year. Meanwhile, two of London's most expensive mansions, on the market for a combined £475 million, are struggling to sell. The founder of Evergrande almost sold his Rutland Gate property for less than the asking price until talks broke down, while a mansion in Regent's Park received offers below its £250 million asking price. Military Briefing, the Israeli bombs raining on Gaza. Financial Times. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly asked the U.S. for more arms to destroy Hamas. Israel has been using a range of modern Western weaponry, from satellite-guided bombs to laser-guided missiles, in its war against Hamas in Gaza. According to the Israel Defense Forces, the attacks have killed over 5,000 Hamas fighters, but the destruction caused has been described as catastrophic. By December 4, 60% of buildings in North Gaza had been severely damaged, rising to 70% in some districts. Across Gaza as a whole, between 82,600 and 105,300 buildings have been left in ruins. Amnesty International has called for an investigation into Israel's use of such heavy munitions, claiming there is evidence that 1,000-pound and 2,000-pound bombs were used in strikes on homes in Gaza that killed 43 people. The speed and intensity of Israel's bombing campaign, as well as relaxed targeting rules, have also led to high levels of destruction. Under Putin, the uber-wealthy Russians known as oligarchs are still rich but far less powerful. Associated Press. The political power of Russia's oligarchs has diminished under Putin's rule, according to an article from the Associated Press. The report suggests that Putin has shown he is in control, with the oligarchs having to accept his decisions, even if they negatively impact their wealth. The article also notes that Putin wants to create a new group of wealthy individuals who are loyal to him by redistributing assets seized from foreign companies and invalidating privatizations from the 1990s. Israel has leveled shocking allegations of sexual violence against Hamas. Here's what we know. ABC. Israel has accused Hamas militants of committing sexual violence against Israeli civilians during the October 7 terrorist attack and has called on the United Nations and women's rights organizations to acknowledge and investigate these alleged crimes. Israel's presentation at the UN included testimony from an Israeli emergency responder who described finding women brutally abused by their attackers. The Israeli and Jewish community has expressed frustration over the lack of acknowledgement and support from the wider women's rights sector, including UN Women. Israel launched an official police investigation into the allegations several weeks ago, which is expected to take 6 to 8 months. Refile Nepal police detain 10 over allegations they sent youths to Russian army. Yahoo! Police in Nepal have detained 10 people for illegally recruiting unemployed youths into the Russian army. The detainees charged each person up to $9,000 and sent them to Russia on visit, tourist, visas, mainly through the UAE, where they were then recruited into the Russian army. Nepal has asked Russia not to recruit its citizens into the army, following the deaths of 6 Nepali soldiers serving in Russia's military. US and China diverge on how to avert military clashes. Nikkei Asia. The US and China have agreed to resume military dialogue and begin discussions on climate change and regulation of artificial intelligence at a recent summit. However, there are concerns that the two countries have opposing views on bilateral relations and how to prevent military confrontation. The US is keen to keep lines of military communication open to avoid conflict, but China sees this as undermining its security. There is also a fundamental difference in the relationships that the two sides desire, with the US believing they can work together on common challenges despite disagreements, while China sees an end to US hostility as a precondition for cooperation. It's about time, Representative Mikey Sherrill blasts Tuberville for blocking military promotions. Yahoo! Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville has lifted the hold on military promotions that he had maintained for 10 months, much to the relief of New Jersey Representative Mikey Sherrill. Tuberville had been protesting a Pentagon policy on abortion since February, causing over 400 military jobs to remain unfilled. In response, Cheryl took to social media to criticize Tuberville's actions, calling them brazenly un-American. Tuberville's decision to release the holds on promotions still requires a separate vote for 4-star nominees. Cheryl has called for the confirmation of the remaining 11 4-star nominees. Amazon targets Shein with big fee cuts for cheap apparel sellers. Bloomberg. Amazon is cutting fees for merchants selling clothing priced below $20 as it prepares for a potential price war with Chinese fashion brand Shein. The company will reduce seller fees on clothing products priced below $15 to 5% starting in January, while fees on clothing priced from $15 to $20 will drop to 10%. The move is unusual for Amazon, which rarely reduces referral fees, and suggests that the company is attempting to attract merchants offering low-cost clothes, an area in which Shein has excelled. Amazon dominates the U.S. e-commerce market, but faces new competition from companies with ties to China, including Shein, which plans to hold an IPO in 2024. Pearl Harbor events plan to commemorate December 7 attack. Yahoo! The Navy and the National Park Service are holding events to commemorate the 82nd anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese Navy. The events will take place at the Pearl Harbor National Memorial and on Ford Island and will include remembrance ceremonies and a virtual interactive dive of the USS Arizona. The events are open to the public, except for those on Ford Island which require base access. Akingbala sets program record with 11 blocks and George Washington beats Navy 79-77 in OT. Associated Press. George Washington's Garrett Johnson and James Bishop both scored 18 points in a win against Navy. Babatunde Akingbala set a program record with 11 blocks, breaking a record that had stood since 1976. Austin Benini led Navy with 21 points and 7 assists. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the 6 dimensions. Today, we have quite an interesting lineup of news stories to discuss. First up, we have Amazon taking aim at Chinese online fashion retailer Shein by cutting fees for merchants selling clothes priced below $20. It seems like Amazon is gearing up for a potential price war with Shein, who plans to launch an IPO next year. Looks like the battle for the e-commerce fashion market is heating up. In military news, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly asked the U.S. for more arms to destroy Hamas. The conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza has been devastating, with a significant number of buildings damaged or destroyed. Amnesty International has called for an investigation into Israel's use of heavy munitions, highlighting the high levels of destruction caused. Moving on to Russia, it seems that under Putin's rule, the power of the oligarchs has diminished. Putin has shown that he is in control, and the oligarchs have had to accept his decisions, even if it negatively impacts their wealth. Putin seems keen to create a new group of loyal wealthy individuals by redistributing assets seized from foreign companies and invalidating privatizations from the 1990s. It's like a game of out with the old, in with the new in Russia. Now, here's something shocking. Israel has accused Hamas militants of committing sexual violence against Israeli civilians during a terrorist attack. Israel has called on the UN and women's rights organizations to acknowledge and investigate these alleged crimes. The lack of support from the wider women's rights sector has frustrated the Israeli and Jewish community. An official police investigation has been launched, and we'll have to wait and see the outcome. In Nepal, police have detained 10 people for illegally recruiting unemployed youths into the Russian army. These individuals charged hefty fees and sent the recruits to Russia on tourist visas before enlisting them. Nepal has now asked Russia not to recruit its citizens into the army, following the deaths of 6 Nepali soldiers serving in Russia's military. It seems like Nepal wants to protect its citizens from such illegal practices. Now, let's talk about the US and China. While they have agreed to resume military dialogue and discuss climate change and AI regulation, there are concerns about their differing views on bilateral relations and preventing military confrontation. The US wants to keep lines of military communication open, but China sees this as undermining its security. The two sides have different desires for their relationship, with the US believing they can work together despite disagreements, while China sees an end to US hostility as a precondition for cooperation. It's like a classic case of agree to disagree. In other news, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville has finally lifted the hold on military promotions that he had maintained for 10 months. This decision has brought relief to Representative Mikey Sherrill, who had criticized Tuberville's actions as brazenly un-American. However, confirmation for 4-star nominees still requires a separate vote. Let's hope this situation is resolved soon to fill those vacant military jobs. Lastly, let's take a quick look at some lighter news. George Washington University's basketball team had an impressive win against Navy, with Babatunde Akingbala setting a program record with 11 blocks. Talk about a record-breaking performance. That wraps up our news update for today. Remember, folks, stay informed and keep your sense of humor intact. Now, it's time for your thoughts and questions. What are your takeaways from these stories? Let's hear it. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.